Welcome to Entreprogrammers Podcast, the podcast for developreneurs, with your hosts, Josh Earl, Derick Bailey, and John Sonmez, the podcast where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of three developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
Hey, John Sonmez here, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor for our podcast, Signal. Without Signal, we wouldn't have a place to host our podcast, and as you know, Signal is actually from one of our own here at Entreprogrammers. It is the creation of Derick Bailey. So Derick is actually the owner and creator of Signal, and it's a podcast hosting service. So if you are interested in creating your own podcast, go on over to signalleaf.com and sign up for an account today and check out how easy it is to get started. The thing I really like about Signal is just how easy it makes it for hosting your podcast. Of course, I have my own podcast, Get Up and Code, that I host at Signal, and I've been very happy with it. We're hosting Entreprogrammers there as well. And so thank you again, Signal for sponsoring this show. And don't forget to check out Signal at signalleaf.com if you're interested in starting your own podcast. I've cut out the squats and deadlifts just because my back, I don't know, it always still seems to mess it up.
Yeah, I had a rib out of place for about 2 months last year, and I couldn't do push-ups at all. Like, I would get down to do my push-up, and as soon as I started lowering myself, it would feel like somebody was stabbing me in the back.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, see, I've got this recurring or just common problem of when I go to sleep, if I sleep, and if I lay on my back or stomach or one side, there's only one side I can lay on. When I wake up in the morning, I have pain, like I can't take a deep breath. It feels like my diaphragm is something constricting it, and I think it's I think it's a back problem. That's what I think it is, because when I sit down to touch my toes, like if I have both of my legs extended, I can feel the back. There's definitely something tweaked in my back.
You should see a chiropractor.
I know. I'm still not 100%. Man, I keep on going.
Instead of going once and seeing, John is researching it to death, analysis paralysis.
Well, because
don't bother actually finding out if it's going to work for you or not. Just do a whole bunch of research instead. That's a good idea.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, this is why I don't just go and do it. This is, and I could be wrong, but this is my reasoning, right? So the thing about quackology, right, is you get sucked into it because of the placebo effect. So I don't want to.
It's been 6 months since I've seen my chiropractor. I saw him 4 times to get my back fixed, and I haven't been in 6 months.
Okay, but do you guys know the history of chiropractory or whatever, you know?
Yes, my uncle is a chiropractor.
Okay, so the history, the guy who started the chiropractic business, who came up with the idea, the story goes he slapped some guy in the chest with a book and by accident, and then it cured his hearing. He was deaf or partially deaf, right? So then this guy who came up with this, he said that he was going to make this into a business, and he came up with all these tenets of chiropractic. But one of the biggest held tenets, that this is the pure chiropractic belief, where it started in around 1900, was that all body ailments, everything that's possibly wrong with you, is related to a misalignment of the spine. Now that's totally quack, right? That's 100% quack. Now there are a lot of chiropractors today that practice more than just this quack medicine of believing that every single thing that's possibly wrong with you is due to a spine misalignment. But I don't know how to find those people out, and I don't know how much you can trust. And the fact that it's all based on this kind of crazy notion makes me extremely skeptical.
What makes me skeptical? You know what makes me skeptical, John? Putting mold into my mouth to cure a sinus infection. That makes me skeptical.
But
that's what my PhD or MD legitimate doctor tells me to do. I have a sinus infection.
Yeah.
Put some mold in your mouth, and that will cure you. That sounds like quack doctor
no.
to me.
Here's the difference, though. Let me tell you the one difference, okay?
No, the difference is you've done research that says these guys are quacks.
Well, look, okay, historical
Just
fact.
find one.
Everything
Fact or not,
okay.
whether or not there's a bunch of quacks out there who are doing stupid shit, there's millions of doctors out there that are trying to rip you off.
But
this is all they're
Go
in
to
the
a
podcast, by the
chiropractor
way.
and
Yeah.
he can help you.
The father of chiropractic, the guy who invented it, was
I don't care.
Quack. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get past. Is like
Right.
maybe you can be like an L. Ron Hubbard and I don't know.Maybe you can be an L. Ron Hubbard who actually stumbles upon something that's somewhat true, even though 90% of what you believe is quackology. Maybe there's like a 10% that is true, and then other people expanded upon that, and then now they're at 90% of what they believe is true, and they only have 10% quack in them. That's possible, but it is different than penicillin because penicillin is scientifically proved. Like I can tell you by what mechanism it works. There's studies, there's evidence, there's thousands of studies that show that it actually does. Cause bacteria.
And there's also plenty of people out there that will tell you they have scientific proof for all of this crap that you can buy over the counter that supposedly cures everything on late night television ads. I mean, you're missing the point of actual scientific studies. There's plenty of people out there that are going to do stupid crap to you in both medicine, whatever you want to call it, MD doctors, and there's plenty of people out there that are going to try to screw you as a chiropractor. It's not about the one individual person, and it's not about saying that, yes, this is absolutely 100% the truth, whether or not you have research to say one way or another. There's always going to be good, there's always going to be bad.
Right.
But you're just sitting there doing all of this research saying, here's all of these horrible things that I can't get past, instead of actually spending $20 to see whether or not this will help you.
Well, and one thing I'd add, too, is that, John, around the turn of the 20th century,
I know where you're
medicine, doctors prescribe patent medicine, from what I understand.
They prescribe cocaine.
Cocaine, yeah.
Cocaine is the hell of a drug.
So,
Who gets that reference?
I don't know. I understand. I certainly understand your skepticism. I know for me, for one particular acute ailment, like I'm not convinced about chiropractory or whatever you pronounce it, as like an ongoing treatment for all ills.
Oh no, definitely not.
But for acute, physiological, skeletal misalignments and muscle things, it's I don't see.
Here's what I know. I have a tendency to throw my rib cage out of place when I sneeze. It's just the way I'm built. Okay. I get it from my dad. My dad does the exact same thing. When I sneeze, if I do not hold my head perfectly straight and go straight down, my head is to the side at all, even just a little bit, I will throw my rib cage out of place, and it hurts like hell. You can feel it in my spine that things are not aligned. I go see a chiropractor. 20 minutes later, I'm doing great because he put everything back to where it's supposed to be. That's. I have an entire life worth of my back hurts, go see a chiropractor, I'm fine for 6 months to a year.
Okay,
I certainly don't believe in the it cures everything bullshit either.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody at this point, unless they are a quack, would really try to say that that's the absolute truth. There's plenty. I'm not going to cure a sinus infection by going to see my chiropractor. That's just.
But a lot will say that they can.
And those people are idiots. So don't go to those people. Talk to somebody in your area. Just say, hey, Twitter, I live here. Who's a good chiropractor?
You should go to Matt Fury. Ask him who his chiropractor.
Exactly. Knock on his door. Like, hey, dude.
Without going too far off top, my research so far has pointed me in this direction. That chiropractic. That chiropractors have a reasonable chance of fixing some defect temporarily with the spine or neck, but anything else is quack if they try to do that, because there's no medical evidence that shows that spine manipulation affects anything else besides back or neck, and that right now the medical evidence shows that yes, it points in the direction of chiropractic is a temporary fix for these things, but because that spine adjustment doesn't actually last. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. So I think that, but I also have found that there's a lot of, it's very, very difficult to trust someone in that. So I'm probably gonna go to one. I will, just to see. But I want to make sure that I know. I guess I want to make sure. This is my thing. Like, I want to make sure that I have as much knowledge as possible. So when I walk into a chiropractor, and he tells me some stuff, I can be armed with the knowledge to say, okay, now we're in the quack meter zone, or we're not in the quack meter zone, because I need to quickly evaluate that. Because the thing about charlatans and quacks is they're very charismatic, and I don't think that I'm immune to the charisma of a charlatan or a quack. So I have to make sure that I'm armed with truth before I walk in. Otherwise, I'll get taken.
Do you do the same when you go to a dentist or another medical profession? Do you do the research on what drugs should treat your symptoms before you go to your medical doctor and say, it hurts when I do this, or I have an infection here?
To some degree, yes. I've actually taken my x-rays from one dentist, and I have sent them to another dentist and said, verify that there's a cavity here. And sometimes I have gotten back a response, there is no cavity there. That is crazy. So, I mean, and that's how I kind of, because dentistry is, okay, I mean, there's different levels of like, I'm a professional doctor, and I'm going based on science, and I'm feeling my way, like I'm going on intuition, versus I'm a total quack, right? And it's like, this is my scale of it. Like, chiropractors are pretty far on the left of the quack side, right? And then dermatologists are actually.
You've already convinced yourself not to go because you think they're all quacks.
Well, dermatologists are pretty far on the left side as well. They're a little bit quacky, and so our allergists are extremely quacky. I guess they're further than dermatologists, right? And then you get into.
I would completely disagree with that.
Allergists are so quacky.
Having a family full of people that get allergy shots and having personal proof that it does help. I would completely disagree with you on that.
Okay, I don't know. I think that's on the quacky side, but like
coming from a person who has never had to experience the hell of seasonal allergies that knock you out for days on end, I just don't trust your opinion on that.
Okay, a lot of general practitioners are on the quacky side, right? But not on the quacky side is heart surgeon, right? You're a heart surgeon. You don't like make up shit. Like, there's no opportunity to do that. Like, what you're doing is proven it works. Like, and dentists are over because dentists are in between. Because dentists can totally make up stuff and be full of crap.
See, I guess the problem that I have with your categorization here is that you're categorizing entire practices instead of the individual people.
Well,
I don't care about. I mean, I'm not going to go see, a psychic reader or an astrologist, because I agree with you that those fields are entirely quacks.
Yeah.
But from a medical professional standpoint,
our listener.
From a medical professional standpoint,
sorry, man.
I can't group any one of these categories that you're grouping into quacks or not. Not even on a scale. It's down to the individual person,
exactly,
not the practice.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
What you just said is that this practice is full of crap, and I'm not going to.
No. I'm not saying this practice. I'm saying there's more likely to be quacks in there. Like, you know what I mean? I'm saying that each one of those things have legitimate. Like, dermatology is a legitimate medical science. There is proven things. I mean, there are proven treatments, proven whatever, but there's a lot of quacks that go into there that sell all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do, that's not scientifically proven.
There's a lot of people selling crap on TV late at night claiming that it fixes all kinds of problems.
Yeah, but they don't claim to be a doctor, and that's
sometimes they do.
Well, sometimes
this was created by a medical doctor, so it must be legitimate. No, it just means it's created by a medical doctor.
But even on my right side of the scale, there are some heart surgeons that are quacks, because there are certain heart surgeons that write books about what is making you fat and causing heart disease, and it's total quackology. There's no scientific basis. They're just doing a scare tactic to be on the New York Times bestseller list. There's a couple of those that are out there. Even though they have a legitimate practice, they're actually operating on people's hearts. So I mean, there's quacks all around for sure. especially in the medical practice, because a lot of things are we don't even know how the human body works to a huge degree. But I'm just saying that there's certain areas where there's more likely to be quacks. So I don't know. That's why chiropractic is. You have to definitely admit that chiropractic, there is no like medical evidence for any of the things that they do. Like, there's never been scientific.
I don't agree with that at all.
Find one trade journal, because I've searched. I'm telling you, for weeks now, I've searched. Find one actual medical trade journal that scientifically documents the how chiropractic works and that it has a proven result.
Find me one article on entomology that can show me the exact size and shape of an anthill in my backyard.
No. This is we're talking medicine, because I can tell you why penicillin works. I can tell you why.
You're questioning predictive science versus what's the crap? I can't remember the word now. It's based on you're questioning the ability for somebody to be able to make a prediction about what will happen given A plus B. We expect C, versus the ability to perform an experiment and examine the results and gather evidence. Okay, in the past we have seen that when these things happen, this is the result. These are both valid scientific approaches. They're just different aspects of different types of science based on what you can and cannot predict versus measure.
But you have to be able to prove it. So all I'm saying is this: like, if show me a picture of a spine and say this, right lumbar L1 is misaligned. This is causing X symptoms. We have 1,000 people that have this problem. I am going to, we're going to have chiropractor A is going to adjust these 1,000 people. We're going to track the results over time, and here, this is the proof. By doing this such adjustment, it caused this effect. By this mechanism, we expected this result, and this is the result we achieved. There is none of that. But there is that for penicillin. There is that for everything else.
If you say there's none of it, I'll trust your word on it, because I haven't done that research.
But at the same time, it's like there's also like Eastern medicine, right? And that is that there's a huge amount of quack, but there's also a huge amount of results there too. So I'm not saying that that things can't happen for reasons that we don't understand, and that there's but I am saying that you just have to have your BS radar on when you're on the left side of the spectrum, and less so on the right side. The heart surgeon's probably not going to BS you, but the dentist might.
I'd be a whole lot more picky about my heart surgeon than my chiropractor.
What's that?
I'd be a whole lot more picky about my heart surgeon than my chiropractor.
Yeah, but he's less likely to give you BS. That's not true.
I don't think that's true at all. That comes down to the individual person.
It does. I mean, everything is going to come down to the individual person. It's just, I don't know. You have to be sensible about what things are likely to be a scam or not.
Yeah, right? Yeah, definitely do.
And sometimes you have indicators.
You've convinced yourself that chiropractic care is a scam, so don't bother.
Well, is it true? I mean, should I come from the mechanism of believing everything and then I have to prove that it's false, or that I believe everything's false until someone proves? I mean, especially in a medical field, I want someone to prove that it's true before I take a drug that might kill me, right?
I totally. I'm right there with you. I'm the pessimistic. I don't believe a darn thing until I know how it works. But I mean, it's personal experience at this point. I can't prove that chiropractic care is going to help you at all. All I can do is suggest that you go see a chiropractor. I've had my whole life full of chiropractic care, and I know what it can and cannot do for me. So
okay. And I mean, that's fair enough. I definitely do need to go and visit one and see. So. I mean, Josh has had some positive experience too, and I think he's probably on the skeptical side as well, but.
Yeah, and so my experience was I kind of had two things I was hoping to. Well, the acute problem that I had was this knife in the back.
Are we recording this, by the way?
Yeah, we are. It's all
we should be like on the
podcast.
This should be a Get Up and Code episode.
Yeah,
not
I know.
Seriously, we should probably just cut this entire segment out.
I don't know if we should cut it or not, because like if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have, medical. You're going to be paying for your own medical expenses. So you better you got to think about things a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. This is kind of I think a whole lot of people are just going to turn the episode off if we end up keeping that in there.
It's pretty interesting. I don't know, but
right, it would be a great Get Up and Code episode.
Yeah.
For me, we should all go on Get Up and Code and just yell and scream about this. Great. So for me, I had the stabbing pain in the back of my head. It was persistent for about a month, 6 weeks. Every time I did any sort of physical exertion, I felt like I was going to die. I was trying to get started working out, and I couldn't because of this headache thing. So I go to the chiropractor, and 2 visits, and the first visit he didn't do the adjustment to the back of my head. The second visit he did it. I went home, I did push-ups, I did pull-ups, no pain. So I don't think that was, I really don't think it was placebo. I was also hoping they'd help me with the pain I've had under my left shoulder for most of my life. Did a bunch of visits, did not help that, but they did tell me that I was really tight back there. So I've gotten I got something that allows me to massage underneath my shoulder blade, and that has helped a lot.
Really?
So
Okay.
the adjustments themselves didn't, but going there, their knowledge, they could instantly tell just by touching my back that I was basically my muscles were really tight on one side. It was kind of pulling, and so massaging that and loosening it up has pretty much eliminated that pain. So.
Well, see that sounds legitimate. Well, first of all, it was a neck thing, right?
Right.
So that is within the realm of what could possibly be cured by adjusting the spine. That makes sense. And then the second thing, the shoulder thing, if they didn't say, adjustments will fix that, but they gave you something else and some reason why, and then that worked, then that has some legitimacy to it. I mean, that's not technically chiropractic, but that's someone who is knowledgeable of the anatomy of the human body and how it works. So that doesn't mean that if I go to a chiropractor, they will have the same kind of.
No, definitely not. I've gone through 5 or 6 chiropractors in the area here.
Right.
And I've been to some that I didn't like. I didn't like the approach they took to the care they gave, and I went and moved on to someone else.
Yeah, John, for your problem, I mean, who knows? It's worth a shot. But I mean, there are an awful lot of nerves in your spine, and there's an awful lot of nerves in your
Every last nerve in your body goes for your spine.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of nerves in your stomach too. So
yeah.
It's a little I don't know, a misfire up the upstream could affect things downstream. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, go see your family doctor. Just say, hey, look, I'm having these problems, and see what he says.
Yeah, I mean, I have before, and I actually don't have one right now because, I don't know, a lot of general practitioners, that I won't say quack, but they just really don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, no offense to doctors, but hey, a lot of them, they don't. I would say it's just like programmers. I mean, right? We're in a highly specialized field, right? Programming is a hard thing to do, to learn, to become good at it. But 95% of programmers pretty much suck. If you go into corporate America and you look, programmers just totally suck. They're incompetent, right? So there's only 5% that are competent, and so. How would you, not being a programmer, know who the 5% that's competent are? Chances are, if you hire a programmer to do something for you, you're going to get one of the incompetent ones, and you won't even know the difference. So, you would know it if you hired someone who was competent then afterwards. But that's kind of the situation that we are in with medical professionals.
I totally agree. Half the problem with the medical profession is that we rely on self-report. I have a problem, so I go see the doctor. I tell the doctor what I think my symptoms are. Might be completely wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's so dang difficult without running a million tests to see exactly what the problem is. I mean, I just found out last week that I have a genetic defect in my heart. I had no freaking clue.
Right. Yeah.
It's my son inherited it from me. I got it from my parents. I don't know which parent exactly, but there's no way that I would have ever known that without having gone through $15,000 worth of genetic tests to try and diagnose my son's movement disorder.
Right. Yeah.
While medical science is vastly improved compared to where it was 100 years ago, it's still a largely trial and error. It's okay, here's the symptoms, and this is the usual cause of those symptoms, which in 50, 60, 70% of the case might be accurate, but in that other 30%, you're, back to the drawing board. And in the case of my son, less than 1%.
Right. Yeah.
It's definitely it's very similar to development in that we call it a practice, not a manufacturing process. It's okay, here's my evidence, right. Here's the things I'm looking at, here's my experience leading me to this conclusion, but you get second opinions from doctors the same way you get second opinions from developers to see whether or not your idea is valid.
That's true. It's true. It's not engineering. Neither of those are engineering.
We need to start advocating pair medicine.
Yes, pair doctoring.
That's a good idea because
medical craftsmanship, man.
That's right.
Start that movement.
Yeah. Well, we have a rule in my house now, which is unless unless there's blood and you're going to die within 24 hours, you do not go to the doctor. You do not call the doctor. If it doesn't require an ambulance, it probably doesn't require an emergency room visit. So, because every single time that we've gone in, either me or my wife or brought my daughter in, it's always been like, oh, yep, okay, yeah, just give it a couple of days.
Yeah.
Right. It's never been, oh my gosh, good thing you came in because I've got the medicine for you. This is going to fix you. This will fix you. It's never been that. Never. Not once. Never once. So.
Yeah, the only experiences I've had where it's been legitimately, I'm glad you came in, were my sinus infections and ear infections. I had I think 24 sinus infections and ear infections inside of 3 years.
Yeah.
It was awful, and that's it was nightmares. Like every other month, I would get either a sinus infection or an ear infection, and I was going to the doctor every time, and we went through a whole lot of stuff to figure out, why it was happening, and never really figured it out. But I went to a ENT doctor, got a tube in my ear, and I haven't had an ear infection since.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so should we get into
yeah.
We'll get plenty of comments on the like.
People are
you guys are all quacks.
They're gonna think we're full of crap, and they're just gonna go somewhere else.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's different perspectives too. It's like important to have different.
Yeah.
I think we work. All three of us work well together because we have a lot of things in common. But we also have different perspectives on a lot of things and come from different backgrounds. So.
Yeah, and I think there's also a good level of trust in our group here, which is a really important thing. This is something that I've had in the past with coworkers, and actually I'm working with one of my former coworkers as a client now, where you and I sit here and yell at each other about medical crap for 20 minutes, and then we just get right back to what we were doing because we know that there are more important things, and that conversation, while we might disagree about it, has no relevance to our friendship and the things that we're actually working on, so we just put it aside and we go on about our business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to call BS on people's stuff.
Right?
Because, when you call BS on someone's stuff, you might be wrong.
Right,
But you're thinking it, so if you can't say it, then you're not going to get corrected. You're not going to get it hashed out. So then it's like, and it's hard. I mean, especially in working environments, I think, to be able to say, oh yeah, whatever you're doing, I don't think that doesn't seem like a good idea. Like, so often there's teams where no one ever says that doesn't seem like a good idea, and then so everyone just marches to their death, like, oh, let's jump off the cliff. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Go do that. That'll be fun.
People confuse the idea of trust with the idea of not wanting conflict. Like, oh, I trust you, so I'll do what you said. No, that's not what trust is. Trust is the ability to say, hey, I think you're wrong. Let's talk about it. And when somebody says, look, I understand why you think I'm wrong, but we need to do it for these reasons. Trust is saying, okay, you've given me your reasons, even though we disagree, I'll do it. We've had our discussion, but I'll do it anyways. That's trust. It's the ability to have the argument, and one person says this, and the other person says, oh, okay, let's do it that way.
Right, exactly.
Whoever that may end up being, whatever side may end up being the, quote, winner. It's not about winners and losers, though. It's about finding the solutions and answers.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%. And for the record, for everything that I'm saying. I could be totally wrong.
Oh yeah, same here.
But it's just what I think.
Right.
And so
frankly, you've done a lot more research on chiropractic care than I have. I've grown up with it my whole life, but I've never done the research.
All right, so
Anyway.
so what should we talk about this week? How are you guys been doing?
Well, I think this conversation is pretty much evidence of my whole week. I've been in a bad mood the whole week. Nothing terribly bad in terms of sales, or I think my book sales are getting back up to where they were, and I've had at least one new subscriber a day on Watch Me Code, so I can't really complain there. But just for reasons I guess that I can't articulate, I've just been really pissed off at everything this week, and it's starting to drive me nuts. And no, it's definitely driving my family nuts.
Have you been to your chiropractor lately?
I should totally see my chiropractor about being pissed off.
That's funny. I've been in the same kind of zone this week. In fact, I'm having my fantasies about like going out to the mountains again and never touching a computer.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I actually don't know why. Like I think it's because I'm writing this book and I'm stressing myself out on deadlines. But
yeah.
I'm back on an even keel, so you guys have to be.
Somebody has to have a balance.
Yeah, the balance has to be kept,
That's funny.
Yeah.
I was thinking. I mean, I think because I'm doing Pomodoros, and then I found that I was actually trying to say I'm doing 10 Pomodoros, but I also need to get all this work done in those 10 Pomodoros, and that's a recipe for stress out and disaster, because that's totally, you can't control that. You can only say, I'm going to do so much work.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to squeeze, I need to get these chapters done, and so I'm actually having a meeting with my editor on Monday, and I'm like, look, I'm moving at a good pace. Like I'm producing like a chapter a day for you guys. So if I don't end up meeting the first deadline, or if we have to extend that out, then let's talk about now we're going to have to do that, because I'm not going to like totally kill myself and stress myself out and write crap because of some arbitrary number. It's better to say, okay, am I producing? Yes, I'm probably producing. Right. Yeah. So
I think you're going to find that your editor will absolutely love that conversation, because in my experience with editors for magazines, I've never done a book, but I've done several magazine articles. Editors love when you communicate that kind of stuff to them, because it lets them know what's going on and it lets them adjust plans and whatnot. I've had magazine articles that were 3 or 4 months late. I had one that was 6 months late, and my editor didn't care, because I let him know. It's like, hey, look, I promised this. I'm not going to be able to do it. Okay, no problem. I'll rearrange to get it to me when you get it done, and we'll figure out where it can go when you get it done. I think you're gonna find that your editor will be all about helping you and getting things done on your availability. The other option
you're early enough in the process too.
Yeah, definitely.
That's correct. So.
Right, early in the process is huge. The other option is just write the crap versions. Just say,
exactly.
Here's my outline. Here's the crappy version of it. Now that I've got the whole book and this horrible crappy version of it, let's start refining it. So
exactly.
I tend to prefer, I think, the approach that you're using of I'm going to write the version of it in a halfway well done version of it the first time through. I don't like doing the fleshing out the crappy version and then modifying from there. I just hate the editing process.
Yeah.
So I tend to write a good chapter in one sitting, and I won't move on from that chapter until that chapter is good.
You're not going to get away from an extensive editing process, though, with a traditional.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah. And
definitely not.
Do you know how many drafts they're going to have you do? Is it like 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that?
They don't have that. It's more like there'll be an early access, like when 1/3 is done, and then I've got an editor I'm working with. She's like correcting stuff as I go, like big like vision type of stuff. Put a table here, like expand upon this, like that as I'm going.
Right.
And then after that, then it'll go out for review. And then when the review comes back, then I'll make modifications, and then there'll be like an actual proofreader editor, and then another editor that's more of a copy editor that will like improve or I guess the copy editor would come first, not necessarily the idea, but the way that the words and sentences are and then so that's how I understand the process, but we'll see. So I'm expecting to do a lot of editing and work on it. I totally don't mind doing that. The thing that was getting to me was like trying to hit so much stuff compressed into so much time.
Yeah.
That I was trying to fill. I was trying to do that whole classic mistake that project managers and develop that I'm always against, which is like you trying to control the like the length of the sprint and what's in it. You can't do both. You got to say like because you can't choose to the one thing has to break out of that constraint. I was doing that because I was saying I need to get 10 Pomodoros done today, and I need to in those 10 Pomodoros I need to write 3 chapters in or whatever it was, and it's like no, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I find for me, you're right. That is like the best way for me to stress myself out in a hurry is to put together a big, like I always do this on the weekend. This is my classic mistake. On the weekend, I put together this huge to-do list for myself that's like 20 items on it.
Yeah.
And I get through 5, and then I'm grumpy and cranky.
Exactly.
Dang it! I didn't get my list done.
And the solution for that, this is why the part of Pomodoro technique, even though it sounds so simple, it's so hard, is because you have to train yourself. And like I said, I still need to continue to train myself, but to say no, I'm going to do X Pomodoros.
Right.
Here's my list. I'm going to start it's prioritized list, so I'll start at the top. And when I hit my goal of Pomodoros, I have had success. That is how I define success. I have worked hard on a prioritized list for this amount of time. And then afterwards, like you can go back and say, whoa, gosh, I'm kind of disappointed what I got done. And the answer to that is because you prioritized it wrong. Right? It's you know what I mean? That's the only answer. It's if you've done the hours, if you worked as hard as you're supposed to work, then you give yourself a pat on the back. But yeah. I mean, I'm of course speaking from a hypocritical as I beat myself this week, doing exactly not that.
Yep.
Finally, I think on Thursday night or Wednesday night, I came to the realization. I was like, look, this is stupid. Like I think I did like 65 Pomodoros last week, and I was beating myself up. So
that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. You've definitely made a believer in Pomodoro out of me. I mean, just from all the times that we've talked about it and the few weeks that I've been trying to make it a habit, I can definitely see an improvement in my productivity and my ability to focus. It's just knowing that I've got this time block, I'm going to work right now, and I catch myself constantly trying to flip over to Twitter or check my subscriber account or whatever it is that whatever stat I'm currently obsessed with, and I really have to force myself not to look at it, to go back to work and know, okay, I've got 10 minutes left or 15 minutes left or however long it is, and then I can go briefly be an idiot and obsess over my stats and then get back to work.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm actually Pomodoring this now. I wasn't doing it before, and I wasn't Pomodoring like get up and code, or I wasn't Pomodoring like things like that. I was only Pomodoring the actual, and I realized that's kind of stupid because I'm choosing to spend my time on this during my day. These are work hours. Now we're publishing this podcast soon, so like this is not just this is one thing a commitment that I have to do. So I decided to do that. I haven't done the email yet, but oh man, email is taking me like I need to start. The first thing I need to do is just start tracking the time because I think I'm spending like an hour to hour and a half on email every day, and I do it all at night at one time.
Yep.
It's just pissing me off because it's like at the end of the day I have an hour and a half worth of work that is there every single day that I'm not counting. And I don't want to count it because it's not really productive work. I'll call this productive work, this podcast, but I won't call email productive work. I don't know.
It's pretty
email
rare.
thing. Well, I think it kind of depends, like whether that's productive or not, right? Because if you're communicating with your audience, that is productive in my mind. You're answering questions that people have, especially if you can do the Hanselman thing and turn it around and turn it into a blog post or something, and that might be one thing to look at. That's what I'm doing with my Sublime list. Like I will answer questions that people have, but I'll tell them, hey, this is going to be in the newsletter next week.
Right.
So I try to reuse it as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with my mailing list. When people sign up, they get that, what's the one secret that you want to know question, and
right.
I answer that question, but then it turns into emails from my mailing list.
Yeah, like it definitely is productive. Like building relationships with people one-on-one, like we all can't do that indefinitely. As we get more and more people following us, that won't be possible. But
right.
As much as you can do it, it's really good to do. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, still responds to all his email, and he certainly interacts with people a lot on Twitter and advocates that. Like, it doesn't scale very well, but it's still
right.
It still is productive. I mean, that personal contact with you. You do that with somebody twice, and then they buy your $300 course. Well, was that productive? I would argue, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And to be honest, like, I mean, I definitely, I guess, when I say productive, I guess I mean, I don't know. I think of long-term things that you're building, but I guess relationships are true. But
I totally get what you're saying. I feel the same way about email. I tend to do email 3 times a day unless there's something urgent that comes in. So a good example of productive email was the WebTools weekly stuff that I've got going on.
Right.
It's very productive for me to respond to him quickly because we're setting up so a whole bunch of really good stuff for me that's going to get my name in front of people more often and show them the value that I can provide and all that. So that's definitely productive. But at the same time, I've got 20 of those "What's the one secret you want to know?" emails sitting in my inbox, waiting for me to respond.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to find time to respond to those because it does take a lot of thought and effort, and I do consider it worthwhile, but it's not productive as in producing income or a product. It's productive as in building relationships with people, which is a very time-consuming thing. But it's also a necessary thing. I actually had my dad in town over the weekend, and we were talking about building relationships in business, and he was talking about interviews specifically. He was coaching someone on an interview process. And the advice that he gave to this person that was going through this interview process was the one thing, the one goal that you always have in any interview situation is not to get the job, it's to get the next appointment with that person. And the reason that your goal is not to get the job, but to get the next appointment is so that you can build the relationship with that person, with the people that are doing the hiring. You get in front of them multiple times, get into their office for 3, 4, or 5 interviews, however many interviews it takes, and build a relationship with those people. Because when you have that relationship with them, they are going to know you better, they're going to know who you are better, they're going to know your personality better, and whether or not you're going to fit into the culture. So even if you don't get the job, it's better to have gone through 4 or 5 interviews and have built a relationship with those people to know that this culture is not right for you, this environment, this whatever is not right for you, than it would be to go in once, nail the interview, and get the job that you think is going to be awesome, and it turns out that you hate it because it's the wrong culture, it's the wrong people, it's the wrong whatever. It's all about building that relationship with people. So there is a lot of value in building relationships with people. It's just, like Josh just said, it doesn't scale. You can't build a relationship with everyone that comes along and wants to talk to you. And sometimes you just got to shut the door and get your kids to stop talking.
We all know what this is like.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! One time I I'll fill some dead air here. I was on the phone with I was doing some consulting with a former boss. And this so I was talking to him about this project. I was talking to my former boss about this project that we're going to work on. So I was going to do some contracting with them, and I was pacing around my basement. I usually walk in circles when I'm on the phone. I'm not in video. and so my son had his toys sprinkled all over the basement.
Oh no!
There was this duck. There was this stupid duck that I stepped on. It was just really long. I'm like, I'm sorry. That's explain what happened.
I was on a video call with a friend/boss a while back, and he works from home, so he's and his kids are always home as well, and we're sitting there talking about fairly serious business stuff, and in the background I see this little 2-year-old naked boy go trotting across the street, and his mom chasing after him. It's pretty awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky in that my kids are never home when I'm at home working. If my kids are home, it's because they're sick or they have the day off, and I'm not working that day. So.
Yeah, my wife is homeschooling our daughter, so.
Yeah.
But I do have a double buffer, but my outer door was not locked, so.
Right. Clearly, it wasn't.
John has an airlock to his office.
Yeah, I've got 2 doors, so like a corridor. I have a wing actually in my house. That's my office wing, sort of.
Nice.
So,
but yeah, John, I feel where you're coming from though, because I'm kind of getting to the same point with where it's not taking me nearly as long as you, but I've been doing the daily emails this week.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed is that people respond to you a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm getting every time an email goes out, I get anywhere from three to half a dozen, maybe more emails back with questions or comments that I want to follow up on and stuff. So
right.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to start triaging that stuff too. I want to respond. I'm trying to use as much of it as I can for fodder for future stuff. Like I don't have a ton of time right now, and I want the time that I do spend on it to be, I want to get at least double use out of that time if I can.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, like a lot of my email time isn't just responding to people, it's reading a bunch of stuff. It's like newsletters and all that. I need to actually track it and figure out where I'm spending what time. And I mean, I don't even respond. Like I used to respond to everyone. Now I don't respond to people that send emails that say, I want to become better developer. Please teach me how. Right?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, but if you're going to spew off like 2 sentences that are not specific, I'm not going to respond. I need to know your Selenium secrets. That's okay. Good. Read my blog post or take my course, but I'm not going to respond to you. And then, it's like no respect. So I'm not going to respond to those. But
there've been plenty of those that I've learned to ignore as well. Sometimes I have to ignore emails that I really do want to respond to just because I'm so dang busy. And I feel bad not responding to them, not even saying, sometimes I don't even give them a sorry, I can't help you right now, I'm too busy. Sometimes I just set it aside. But every now and then somebody will be really, really, really persistent.
Yeah.
One of you guys were talking about persistence a while back. I think it was John, but there's one person who she sent me an email a day for 3 or 4 days in a row to different email addresses too, going around to all my different sites asking, trying to get in touch with me because she had a question, and finally it wasn't that she was persistent that got me to respond. It was finally when she worded the question in a way that piqued my interest.
Yeah.
Each of the emails was something slightly different, but it was all related back to the original question. And finally, I read the text preview in my mail client, and the question made me stop and think, what? No, that's not right. So then I had to go look at it, and I found the problem, and I helped her solve the problem, and it was a good situation overall. I think I ended up helping her, and she was very appreciative of that, but. It was a lot of being ignored and her being persistent that finally got me to answer the email and help her out.
Yeah.
And I really do feel bad for doing that, but at the same time, what are you going to do about it? It's time is money, and it's expensive to respond to everyone.
Yeah, you only have so much time. I mean, I'm definitely hitting the upper limits of I think where the scale is going to be.
Yeah.
And it might be a matter of putting up a better fact page or auto sending people to something that if it's already been answered, or
And
even just training someone to answer your emails for you on certain ones. And I don't know, like I've been thinking about, I don't know, I've talked about this before, but I'm thinking about hiring a full-time VA, because I think I could utilize that person if I could train them right to do a lot of tasks. So
right. And the fact thing is what I tried to do with Signal Leaf, and I've fallen pretty far behind on that as well. But every time when I first started, every time I got a question, it turned into a help page or a blog post or something.
Yeah.
And doing that is a great way to help people answer their own questions. That's a lot of how I got to be so popular with Backbone as well. I was on Stack Overflow all the time, and my answers on Stack Overflow turned into code and blog posts.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting that time. I'm still not Pomodoroing it. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's something that we probably should consider with this podcast. I mean, if we have legitimate things to talk about, we might want to consider time boxing these things and not rambling on for 2 hours like we tend to do sometimes.
I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on. I mean, we've got definitely, like, I don't know, I'm sure we've always got like 4 hours worth of stuff we could talk about. So.
True.
Yeah. But time boxing email is an idea too that I've heard with. It's just saying, like, you have an hour or less, 45 minutes. Yeah. What are you going to do? Okay, answer these ones. Okay, these ones no. Sorry, or you don't have time to read this. Unsubscribe from this. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically my week has been frustrating, the same as yours. Getting sucked into too many things and not sticking to Pomodoro like I should. And
I did come to an important realization this week, though, that I think I'm going to do, which I was talking to my wife about this, and because I was stressed out on Wednesday, I had a scotch, and I was like, this sucks. I hate doing this stuff. Like I work for myself. I should love this job, but. But then and it was and what it almost always turns out in that case is like I said, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. So but one other thing was, like, with my course, I really want to get to I don't want to write this book right now. I want to market the course, because that's like a big money maker. This book is not going to be, but it's a good thing for my future.
Right.
So and I don't have, and this thing is not settled. I'm not selling. I should be selling a few a day. I'm not at that point. With the traffic I get to my blog, I could be. So then I was talking about that Jeremy Reeves guy, that copywriter. He's actually a sales funnel expert. Like, that's his niche in the copywriting.
Okay.
And I told you guys about the coaching for like $1,000 a month, but I don't have really the time to implement what he suggests.
Right.
So my wife was like, well, if you did the coaching from him for $1,000 a month, right? How many hours a week do you think it would take you to implement what he was telling you to do? Because that's essentially what the deal was.
Right.
And so I was like, well, probably honestly like 10. So then she went somewhere where I didn't expect her to go. She said, well, if you charge $300 an hour, for your bill rate, and it would take you 10 hours of your work to do what he's telling you to do, plus $1,000 you pay him, that's $3,000 a week, right? In 1 month, you would be spending $12,000 plus another $1,000, $13,000 of your time. How much does he charge to just do it for you, to do everything that he's suggesting? Because I told her he works in both ways, either the $1,000 coaching, or he's actually like builds your sale funnel and writes your copy. And I said, well, from what I understand, it's around $15,000 to $25,000. Mm-hmm. So she was like, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, can you get, if he did your sales funnel for you, how much would he sell a day? And so, I think it's pretty safe to say that someone like that, an expert at sales funnels, that he should be able to sell one a day, right? That's a pretty real, hopefully more, but if he just sold one a day at $300 a pop, right, how quickly am I going to make back the $15,000? How much better of a choice is it than doing the coaching? So I'm kind of at this point now where I'm ready to call the dude up. Obviously I'll interview him and make sure that I'm pretty sure that he's going to be able to do this, but he seems really legitimate. But I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to say, okay, here's like 15 or 25 grand. Go do it. Does that sound crazy?
If you have the money available, I don't think it sounds crazy at all. I think it sounds like a worthwhile investment. I mean, I spent $1,500 on getting Momoko to rebuild my backboneplugins.com sales page for me, and that at the time I didn't really have $1,500 available. I made it available, and I invested the time and money in it. But that's a lot of sales for a $20 book to recover $1,500, But it's been absolutely worth it. I've more than made that money back at this point because I've been selling, other than those few weeks where nobody was selling anything just before taxes. I've been selling 2 or 3 books a day, and I've made $4,000 in sales this year.
Yeah.
That's I can directly attribute it to her helping me out with that sales page because I wasn't selling that many books prior to having that done.
That makes sense. I mean,
so if you can recover that cost, even if you don't recover that cost, it's still worth your time and money to pay him to do it. If it would cost you $12,000, $13,000 a month in 1 month to do that work, then you would essentially break even at 2 months, 2 months worth of work.
Exactly.
So even if what he does doesn't sell you one a day and doesn't pay for itself, well, there's a 2-month advance that you have on your time in getting that knowledge 2 months faster. I mean, it's a lot of money to spend, but considering how much your time is worth for your hourly rate, that seems like really good money to spend. It seems like I don't see a bad result of this, even if it doesn't help you sell things. At the very worst, it would give you more knowledge about what doesn't work for this product line. And you can either spend that time and money yourself and wait a couple of months to realize that it's not working, or give the money that you would have spent anyways to someone else, get the feedback faster, and be able to move on faster.
That's a good point.
I just don't see this as a bad thing in any way.
It could be if he doesn't do a great job, it could be a really long-term investment because, right. I mean, he's got to be able to make it so I can sell more because I'm not doing half of the things I should be. So there's like a bunch of easy, bunts that'll get base hits. So even if it took me like a 4-year recovery, let's not say 4 year, let's say 2-year recovery period. Right. I guess it'd probably be worth it. But I mean, part of my resistance was I was like, well, if I pay him if I do everything that I can do first, right, and then I pay him the $1,000 a month to tell me what I'm doing wrong, and then I implement what I'm going to learn it so much better. And I kind of wanted to learn this, but I'm kind of now saying, well, do I really have the time to take on learning copywriting if I have all these other things that I'm trying to do to run my business? Like in sales funnel, like I'll still learn. I guess I don't know if he implements the whole thing. Am I going to learn? Yes. I'm not going to learn as much as if I did it by hand myself. Right. But I can look at what he does and say, wow, that's that. There you go. Or I mean, I guess the other thing that I thought about was like, let's say that I pay him and it's super successful and he's able to sell like 3 or 4 copies a day or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's kind of silly to learn copywriting because then I'm making so much money that anytime I launch a new product, I'll just fork over $50,000 to have it, fully fleshed out formula. You know what I mean? Because you can, because it's a blink. It's like blink of the eye money at that point. If you have one huge success, I mean, if you make a product that can make you $1 million a year, what do you care about spending $50,000, $100,000 on getting a sales funnel in place? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of the conversations where you guys were trying to convince me to use WordPress for what.
Well, and you know what else it reminds me of? The lawnmower conversation that we had.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that only with more zeros on the end.
Right.
Yeah, so you guys convinced me. Oh my gosh, by the way, I've been meaning to email you guys about this. This lawn mowing thing, I actually get a greater sense of pride from looking at my lawn, knowing that I'm paying someone else to maintain it, than I did doing it myself. It is actually, it's very strange, but my lawn looks amazing.
Yep.
It literally takes them 9 minutes. Yep. They show up at 8:30 on Monday morning. They roll off the truck. My little guys go nuts because they get to see the tractors, and then they're gone. And it's like, holy cow! And for me, like, that saves me 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours in the smack dab in the middle of my most productive day, Saturday.
Yeah.
That breaks up my whole day. I stress about it. And if it rains, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? I have to do it. I have to squeeze it in somewhere else.
Right.
And,
now it's their problem.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That has been. So yeah, I am sticking with this going forward. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, it's just hard with this many zeros. I guess that's where it was just like dropping 25 grand potentially. Like, I'm assuming at the upper end, it might even be more.
I had a hard time dropping 1,500. I mean,
that's what I spent on my lawn. So one extra zero, I guess. But and John, copywriters like your product is already proven.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's gonna like. I don't know that he'll agree to work with you necessarily, because sometimes these guys are picky. But you've got a product that a good copywriter would be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do think that he could help you, or he or somebody like him could help you really ramp this thing up.
Yeah, because I'm kind of wasting time right now and money, because like this thing could be selling a lot more. I'm amateur at this. I could be producing my next product right now, or after I finish the book, instead of the copywriting stuff is fun. I enjoy it, but again, it's like from a purely business perspective. Well, and plus, I guess the other way to look at it is like, if I can get successful products and I want to learn it for fun, then I could just devote all my time to doing that once I don't have other things to maintain. So. I don't know. Okay, so I'm pretty sold on it. I got to schedule with this guy and get this.
I wish I had the funds to pay somebody to do all the copywriting and whatnot on Watch Me Code. So I think I'm doing okay at getting one subscriber a day. That's certainly nothing to complain about. But I think I could be doing a lot better if I had the money to pay somebody to really dissect everything all the value that I provide and advertise it correctly on the website. I'm pretty lucky in Signal Leaf. I've got Momoko working on that, which I need to get in touch with her again. I think she's got quite a bit of stuff for me to look at. But for the Watch Me Code side of things, I've seen a huge improvement on my Signal Leaf side since that user onboard webinar that John and I attended.
Oh yeah.
I changed up the site pretty drastically based on their feedback, and I'm getting an average of at least one podcast a week at this point.
That's awesome. Yeah.
They're all trial mode right now, which is painful. I'm actually.
You need to extend that trial mode, man.
Yeah, I need to make it 120 days.
Not long enough.
Right. So I'm actually in the process of getting rid of that. That's what I was doing just before we started. I'm getting rid of the 90-day trial and going to a pay me up front 30-day money back guarantee.
Yeah, I like that. That's
that way, because I've realized with podcasting, like 80% of podcasts die before they get to episode 8.
Exactly.
And 8 episodes is, if you're doing a weekly podcast, that's 2 months, 60 days.
Yeah.
I've got a 90-day free trial right now.
Exactly.
There is no sense in having a 90-day free trial because I'm giving away the entire life of your podcast at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It does not make sense.
Right.
Yeah. One interesting thing about that too is, actually about this whole thing, about the whole like sales process, which I don't know. I'll be the guinea pig here, right? Because I'm going to get someone professional to do my sales funnel. Then you guys can see if it's worth it, or maybe just a learning experience. But I went to this. I signed up for this web conference last night, right? Like one of those web
like a webinar type of thing?
Yeah, webinar, right.
Okay.
From a Facebook ad from a sales funnel expert. They found me somehow, so I clicked through the thing. It's like the whole onboarding process, and I actually ended up. I was going to turn on the webinar for like 5 minutes and just kind of hear what he said. What is he trying to sell? Mm-hmm. And then, but he had me hooked because he was giving like really valuable information. and he was talking about how to set up a sales funnel. And one of the interesting things like that I noticed, like, I mean, he talked about lead magnet, and I mean, I took some pretty good notes here. Like, he said that the lead magnet needed to be have a known desired end result and solve a very specific problem, and also immediate gratification, right, and only be consumed in 5 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was doing with my my giveaway that was working really well on with the Twitter ads. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it worked great.
And it's, if it's short, it's specific, it's addressing one problem. Instead of like 5 ways to do something, it's like solve this one, like this will, you know, give you this piece of thing, like, right? Yeah. And then, but that was interesting. So I kind of learned a little bit on the lead magnet, because I think I had the wrong ideas for it, you know, giving it a lot of value, but you know, it takes too long to read. But then the thing that I think we're all kind of missing here is what he called a tripwire, which is after that, then what you do is you make it like a $7 sale, or like this very low dollar value sale,
right,
to convert someone to a buyer. Because once they're a buyer, it's a totally different relationship. And then he said, you know, after the tripwire was kind of like a lead magnet, but something that's extremely high value. Like it was, he said it was low barrier to entry. You know, less than $20, an impulse buy, like buying a pack of gum.
Right.
It leads to your course sale, so it's kind of related, and it's incomplete in some way, so that you would want to buy the core thing. Easy to understand and explain, useful but incomplete. Yeah, high perceived value, and then a super high actual value. So their first sales experience with you is buying something that's worth 10 times what you're selling it for, and they know it, and they're super satisfied. And then he went into, you know, selling your core product, which you know, advertising that, and then after the core product was upsells and cross sales, which I'm not doing, and I don't know if you guys are. I don't think you guys are doing much of this either, but
a little bit with my book. I'm upselling to get screencasts involved.
Oh, you are? Okay.
But I've thought about that recently. I'm thinking about giving people a you know, buy the more expensive book and you'll get a discount on my Watch Me Code subscription kind of thing. So
yeah,
that would be a good upsell. But what you're saying about the lead magnet and tripwire, I could see that working really well for Signal Leaf, because right now I've got that unfinished ebook on how to start podcasting, and I had talked about before about me changing that lead magnet so that it's just those checklists that I wrote. I think that would be a great lead magnet.
Right.
Then to sell the $5 ebook on how to get started, which would then suggest, you know, and show you how to host your podcast with Signal Leaf.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
That seems like it follow that formula pretty darn well.
Yeah, because you could get a lot of people that would want to, you know, get the thing that solves their specific problem, and then when they buy that book, they're going to want to host with you because you have given them so much value already.
Right.
But it's really interesting. Like when you looked at the numbers, and this guy seemed pretty dang legitimate, because he had a lot of legitimate clients out there, like Neil Patel, the Crazy Egg guy,
do you remember the name?
Shoot, I can't remember his name.
He failed the
definitely legit. Don't know who he is, but he was legit.
Gosh.
Now this all sounds pretty solid.
Yeah, it really does, actually.
Yeah, I don't know what his. I'll have to look it up, but anyway, one thing that was really interesting from this too was that he was showing the numbers on these things where he was converting people, and I mean the end goal, you know, was that he was trying to sell like a $1,000 package that showed you how to do that, went into detail of all these things more so.
Like John Lee Dumas with Podcasters Paradise, he does free webinars and he sells $1,500 courses at the end of the webinar and sells out the course every time there's a webinar.
And I was tempted to buy this thing because I think it seemed like it would be a good value. Like I wouldn't have wasted $1,000, I think, except that I'm going to hire, you know, so that's the only reason why I didn't buy it. But when he showed these numbers, he showed that, like, of the profit for a product, he was showing that, like, only 50% was coming from the core sale, and the other like over 50% actually in some cases was coming from the tripwire and the upsells.
Nice.
Which was just insane because it was all about making a wider funnel at the top, because you're getting a lot more people in and you're getting a bunch of people to buy the tripwire, because the conversion rate on the tripwire was like 15 to 20%. So it was like, and then by the time they went to your core and then the upsells, it was like so you're like leaving half the money on the table if you didn't have a tripwire and upsells, and your funnel was smaller because you were getting less people to your core, because the tripwire makes a higher conversion rate for your core. So it all just like it made really really good sense, and so that I think that's the way to go. And then he had like this huge diagram of all like what the sales funnel looks like, and it had all these different, it was such a huge diagram because it then turned out that every single area along your way, there were autoresponder sequences that you set up to get them to come back, and so there were different ones. Like if they just got the lead magnet but they never bought the tripwire, you would have a sequence to try to get them to the tripwire, and then if they did the tripwire, then you have a sequence to they didn't go for the core, then you keep on following up, and so there was like all these different streams that you had that were taking them to your channels. So it seems like that's a good way to go.
That's what people use Infusionsoft for. Infusionsoft is like a CRM. It's like Mailchimp and Aweber are basically just straight up autoresponders, but Infusionsoft is a pretty extensive package. It's like, I looked at it, it's like almost $300 a month for the basic plan.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah.
I think it'd be like 5,000 subscribers too. So I think I'd be in the, well, probably not now after I've sent out all my daily emails for a week, but I'm under 5,100. I've lost some people, but so I'd probably be in the $400 to $500 a month range, which for me is probably not worth it right now. But
that's rough.
Infusionsoft has a competitor that has what's the Infusionsoft competitor? I was looking at them.
I'm not sure.
Along those lines of what you're saying, I think I could do something similar with my book and my screencasts. I think I could, because we had talked about a while back. I had talked about wanting to do the email course on backbone stuff. Here's things you need to look at and think about, and I could easily set that up with this whole process. I'd give them the $5 tripwire at the end. And then get them to buy the book from that, and then subscribe to the screencast from there. And I think I'd be able to set that up fairly well.
Yeah.
Now it's a question of prioritizing and figuring out what I need to work on next. So really, I need to work on Signal-Leaf. I've got Watch Me Code, automated for the next 3 weeks, and I have all my episodes done through the middle of June. I just need to finish. I just need to publish them and schedule the publishing. I think I should really focus on Signal-Leaf for a while.
Yeah, I could do something similar to that with. I've thought about doing some Sublime cheat sheets and some like kind of middle. So like the cheat sheet would be like the really low end. Middle tier would be like a 30-page setup guide kind of thing for Sublime, for aimed at particular audiences, PHP, Ruby on Rails, and I've had people ask me for those too. So I know it's just, right now, like I'm still focusing. I still feel like I haven't quite got the traffic side of the equation down. I need to broaden the top of my funnel some more, and because I feel like the daily email thing is working out really well. I'm happy with how that's going. And I do think I've been selling more books, and I think I'll see how it goes over the next month or so with that. But I think it's helping me. But I definitely need a little bit more traffic to get more people in the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
To keep up with that. But yeah, and I'm also going to be A/B testing my conversion rate on my Sublime Productivity page that I'm selling it through DPD is only like 1.86% right now. So that's lower than what I was getting with the same copy on LeanPub. So now that I know that, I'm gonna do some A/B testing. I'm gonna do like a couple versions of that page and just see if I can get that up. I think I could get it up. I think I could pretty easily get that up to 3-4%. Seems, because that's a lot of that's email traffic. So I've got I set up a lead pages. I'm converting it over to lead pages and just going to use that, the basic template, the sales page template that they have for that. And it was funny, last night I converted it. I pushed it live, and then I sold a book. I was like,
That's
coincidence? I hope, it might. I don't know. So just the template itself might help the conversion rate.
Right.
I'm going to let that go for a little while and then throw in. Well, I'll definitely A/B test. I want to A/B test the new page with the template, the new template. Basically, same exact copy I was using before. Figure out if that improved over the old template. And then I've got like 3 or 4 different ideas for how I could redo that sales page, because that sales page is sad. I'm not surprised that it's it's not doing super well. So
right.
I wrote that like 2 years ago, and
yeah, that'll be interesting to see if the layout if essentially affects it, or how much it affects it.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually. I mean, it definitely looks a little more legit. It looks a little more polished. I'm not crazy about that particular template, but it's the best one that I could find. I'm looking forward to the lead pages template store that they put in. I'm hoping that I can find some, because I want something like Derick. I love your sales pages. They're really clean with that. That's just the Genesis theme, right, that you're using?
Yeah, it's a whatever theme I bought on top of Genesis. Genesis doesn't come with a landing page template or layout. The theme that I bought for Watch Me Code had that in it. But really, it's nothing more than a no header, no navigation,
right,
just centered box, and
right.
you put all of the content in there. I mean, it's literally nothing but a box that you put content into.
Right, but the default fonts and everything look nice.
Yeah.
So
but I really like it too. I think it works out pretty well. And I did get on those landing pages. I got the sign up form back onto the landing pages. I tested it again this morning, and it works. So my frustration and ranting about how it was broken was basically useless, because I upgraded Restrict Content Pro, and it works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say that's pretty much my plan for the next week or so, is to I'm going to do the Twitter. So I had that call with the Twitter ad rep this week.
Yeah.
And he gave me a couple of really good ideas. I'm going to test that out.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. Oh, and thanks for the kick in the butt, by the way, about getting my blog, starting to blog.
If you weren't going to do it, I was going to have to.
I actually was worried about that. You legitimately scared me into writing that blog post, because I wanted to write that blog post, and I've been procrastinating on it. So
I can't tell you how many times I actually sat down to write it, and then I told myself, no, let Josh do it, but you never did. So I had to tell you to get it done.
Yeah. So one thing I've been learning lately from some of the email stuff that I've been reading is I set the bar for myself really, really high when it comes to putting out content.
Yeah.
And not just the writing, but like I've been trying to expect myself to write really in-depth how-to stuff, or really detailed stuff. And this guy, this Ben Settle, that I've been reading and following a lot lately, he's really, really good at what he calls soft teaching, which is where you basically are making. I mean, it's not a step-by-step how-to. That stuff's good to do too, but it's not like a lot of times you can still provide value, but it can be short and concise and have like kind of one central thought. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm shooting for now. And I've done a couple blog posts with that in mind, and it's working. It's working really well. I've actually my traffic this week to my blog increased like 50%.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, which I mean I was getting about 1,000 hits a week on that blog, and this week I got like 1,500.
Yeah.
Just from 2 posts. So I just
need to. Those really short posts will get a lot more traffic a lot faster. You'll build an audience faster with those.
Yes. That's what I need to do.
People don't generally want in-depth how-tos unless they have a very specific problem that requires a very specific walkthrough, which is why John's video on setting up WordPress was perfect, because it is exactly what you need to set up WordPress. But I've had the same experience with my posts over the last 10 years. The beautifully crafted, well thought out, in-depth articles, they're great for the long haul. They're great for, 3 years from now, you'll still get traffic to that. But if you want to build an audience quickly, you need to have short, concise, focused thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be consistent. Like email today.
Yeah, exactly.
It just make them at least 500 words. I think that's the minimum to get like SEO on the, because you don't want to be like so close and then miss out on the SEO, because if you're writing a lot of posts,
I have a hard time writing less than 500 words.
Yeah, that's usually not.
I don't know how to be concise. I mean, I had my one post this week was checking the HTTP byte range on an HTTP request, and that's, I don't know, 600, 800 words, and that's a really short post for me.
So I found something that I wish I would have discovered a little bit earlier. On Sunday, I finally got around to adding John Papa's interview to the package.
Right.
Okay. So I tweet that out, right, and with a link to my course, and I think I made 2 sales pretty much immediately from that. John Papa retweeted it to his followers as well, of course, because I mentioned him and he was in it. And so I think, I don't know which followers that it came from, but I made 2 direct sales off of Twitter, full price, no discount. Nice. And then I made 2 more sales like the next day, full price, no discount. So it kind of taught me 2 things. One, people are definitely going to buy this full price. Like, I've sold so many full price now that it's that price certainly works. So I'm actually have pretty much cut out my discounts except for when I'm on a podcast and when I do a sale. And then also just the power of releasing pieces and announce, like, it gives you an excuse to announce something, when you add something to it or do an update. So. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, one thing, this is sort of tangentially related. One thing I'm going to start doing is I actually am going to start I'm going to basically start re-promoting all of my old content on a regular basis.
I do that right now. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to what I've been doing is I've been tweeting a couple of links every week that I've to stuff that I've written, and every time I do that, I get like 200 hits.
Yeah.
200-300 hits from my Sublime Text Tips account, and I'm like, so I'm tweeting all this stuff. I tweet like 30, 35 tweets a week from that account. Mm-hmm. Most of them go to other people's blogs.
Yeah.
Which is cool, But if I tweet 2 of my things every day, I will, I can exponentially increase my traffic to my site. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to upgrade. I've been using plug.io is the Twitter software that I use, and I'm going to be upgrading to their $24 a month plan, which allows you to bulk schedule with a spreadsheet. So what I'll be able to do is I'm going to take all of my blog posts that I've written and plug them into a spreadsheet, write good titles for them, and just, take the schedule date, drag it down, day 1, day 2, day 3, and then just, once a month, I'll just put that in there, and I'll have a month's worth of, and I'm also going to plug my newsletter every single day.
Every day, huh? Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep, because I'm tweeting, 8 to 10 times, probably about 8 times a day, maybe. So I'm going to add in one plug for my newsletter a day and 2 of my own blog posts to drive my own my own stuff.
Right.
And it will be super easy with the spreadsheet approach. Like, it'll be like once a month, bang, done. And I can just reuse. I can rewrite the headlines if I want, or I can just reuse them. Because nobody sees every tweet.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say when John, or when this bit about when John mentioned launching, adding new things and being able to announce it again. I've discovered time and time again, and I wish I could remember this lesson, that, and this goes right hand in hand with what you just said, Josh. You're exactly right. People don't see every tweet. The average tweet lives 15 minutes or something really short like that. So when you launch something, when you tweet something, tweeting it once is probably not a great idea. Not that many people are going to see it. Not that many people are going to click through it. So I've heard people say that when you tweet a blog post that you wrote, you need to tweet it at least twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, and that will generally cover the two halves of the world and the different time zones. But more realistically, you should tweet it 3 or 4 times in that day in order to cover all of the time zones and to make sure that people have a chance to see it, because your tweets only have a short lifespan. Unless you are a destination on Twitter, people go to your account just to see what you've been saying, which, I mean, even for famous people, that's pretty rare. Especially for little guys like us, that hardly ever happens. So unless you're a destination on Twitter, you tweet it multiple times. I really need to start doing that with my stuff too. I think I do an okay job of it now, but I very rarely tweet out my old stuff, and I really should, especially now that I'm on my own domain name. I need to schedule tweets to go on a regular basis.
It's like an easy for me it might be as much as 25 to 50% traffic increase for virtually no additional work.
Right.
Yeah, see, that's why, like, I recycle my old posts. I think I only do like 2 a week, but they go on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, everywhere, right? Because I use Buffer to do it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting Buffer. I've been reading more and more about them recently, and I really like how open they are with everything.
And I schedule it all on Monday. And then I also I've got a mix. I know every week it's like 2 old posts get put into there, 3 news articles, like 2 or 3 famous quotes, 2 of my own quotes, like 1 engaging question, 1 newsletter plug, and 1 selling my course plug. And so that goes, but I mix them up so that they are in different order on all the different media channels, so that someone on their computer doesn't see it on all 3 of their things at once. Right. So
they've got their 3 John Sonmez monitors on the desk behind them, and it all pops up at once. That would be crazy.
You got a woof. Oh, is it a woof?
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Email, fax, Twitter, 20 different things. All at once.
But that works, and then also the RSS feed every week, because I get a bunch of clicks from there. So you can definitely increase your traffic by And the only thing I do with my old posts, though, because I'm using my personal account, is I put in parentheses older post of mine.
Right.
Because I don't want people that have been following me, that follow all my stuff, to click it and be like, oh yeah, duh, I read that post 6 months ago, and then never click my post because they just they don't know if it's new or old. Yeah. So I put that there so that when I do new posts, otherwise I'll be cannibalizing my clicks from my new posts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've seen your tweets. I click on a lot of your older post tweets, quite honestly. I have to say I don't pay attention to blogs. I don't read your blog. I don't read Josh's blog. I don't read RSS. I don't read blogs.
Right.
I look at Twitter. What's Twitter telling me? And the thing that gets me to read your blog posts, John, is your tweets and also your weekly email about what you posted last week.
Right.
Also, I do the same thing with JS Weekly and Node Weekly and all the other weekly emails that I'm on. I love those emails because it gives me a chance to know whether or not there's anything I care about from last week. I skim the headlines of your posts, and if there's something that I want to read, I'll mark that email as unread, and it'll stay in my inbox, and I know when I'm going through my email later in the day that there's something that I want to read in there.
Yep. I'm on the same doing things the same way now. I don't do RSS anymore.
Yeah.
I do RSS a little bit just because I can do it on my phone, and it's an easy workflow because I favorite things in my RSS reader, and then I have a if this then that rule to send them to Pocket.
Right.
And then from Pocket, I can easily tweet to Buffer or whatever. I do that a lot. So, but that's the only reason I use RSS really. I tend to prefer email otherwise.
So we should quickly talk about the podcast here. I'm wondering what do you guys think about making our release date be like next week, and releasing with what we have, and then for the first few weeks, releasing like a few episodes a week, and then when we get caught up, going to the once a week cadence. Okay.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Because it just seems like this is episode 10, and if we release with like 12, it's gonna be just too much. Like no one's gonna. But if we release next week when we have like I think we'll have 4 or 5 up, then we can kind of space them out too. And,
well, that also gives us opportunity to continuously talk about it for the next few weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
As we're catching up, all 3 of us are going to announce. New episode it's from this many weeks ago. New episode from many weeks ago. And whatnot. And it'll give us a chance to just continue talking about it and continue telling Twitter that we have this up there and with new content and whatnot. Speaking of the podcast, one thing all 3 of us need to do, we need to record a sponsorship message for Signal Leaf.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to basically, just... I don't know, find something to say about, thanks to our sponsor, blah, 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 or make it silly, make it fun, make it whatever we want to do with it. But we need to record something really short that we can have David go back and insert at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah, okay.
So like right after the intro music and, and the intro thing that we got recorded from whoever it was, before it gets into the podcast, have this episode brought to you by...
Okay, maybe if we each record one and then we can mix them up, so we can just tell them, alternate between these 3.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Okay.
I want mine done with auto-tune, by the way.
Nice.
Pay someone to do it, man.
Okay, so then what do we want for launch date? Sometime next week? Wednesday next week? The reason why I'm saying is because we all need to have a blog post ready to go. I mean, it doesn't have to be a super long, epic blog post, but we should all send a blog on the same day and announce this is the opening day.
I'd vote for Tuesday. I don't know why, but I tend to have the best luck on announcing things on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I don't really have a whole lot of evidence for that, though. It's just kind of how I've felt about things in the past.
Okay, so mark it on your calendar, Tuesday the 6th. We will.
Wait, I demand scientific evidence before we make this decision.
Well, I have this chiropractor, and.
All right, so we're doing Tuesday then.
Yeah, and David's got. Seems like he did a pretty good job. I just sent the one bit of feedback that we just need the first names instead of the last names and.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty much good. I gave him the other episodes to do, paid him, so hopefully that the time will come down to 3 hours per episode, I think, or less, as he gets better at it. So
totally worth the money.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be awesome once we get that, and let's try to get the clips by then too, so we can start inserting them in the episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna have them go back and add those to the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I'll probably go record something for mine real quick. I might even pay a $5 to have somebody record one for me.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. Just to get the announcer pod.
Yeah, but I definitely like the more personal. When I have sponsorships on podcasts, I send the podcaster ideas, and I let them write the actual words to say. Like with that, the big one that I'm sponsoring, I sent them a half a dozen ideas on what to say, and they do something different every week, and it's pretty fun listening to the episodes to hear what they're going to say about Signal Leaf each week and how they're going to do the sponsorship message. But then with JavaScript Jabber and my Watch Me Code sponsorship, he wrote a script and he read it once and he inserts it at the beginning of each episode, and that's totally cool too. That's how he does it. But at the same time, I let him write the actual message after I gave him ideas.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. For Get Up and Code, I just kind of go on the fly. I just kind of talk about Signal Leaf. So.
Right.
And I think that's true. Yeah, maybe personal ones are better. I tend to like them better.
Yeah, having the podcaster use their own words and their own voice makes it more personal. I think John Lee Dumas would tell us the same thing, that you should read it.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, I just recorded the Freelancers show this week.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and it's titled "How to Market Yourself as a Software Developer." They're really, really interested in the course and stuff. I got to give a lot of information. It's good. Basically, the whole episode is a plug for my course. So
that is super. So that's your core audience right there too.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the key. I don't know how big. Do you know how big the Freelancer show is? Does it have a lot of viewership?
I have no idea.
But that's one of those. That's Charles Maxwood's little empire there. So I'm sure they have a pretty decent core of people.
Yeah. I made some good connections too. I'm supposed to talk with Charles like later next week or something to talk about just like how he's running his business, because he was interested in some things that I had. I talked with him I've talked with him a number of times. I want to say a fairly regular basis, but that'd be a lie. I've talked with him a number of times about business and podcasting and stuff in the last couple of months, and he's really fun to talk to. He's got a lot of really cool things he's working on. And then with Curtis McHale and Eric Davis on the Freelancers show, those are both really awesome guys. I hold both of those guys in very high regard, especially Curtis with WordPress stuff. Anytime I have a WordPress question, like you guys give me advice about WordPress, I'll go ask Curtis. Yeah.
He's like my sounding board for WordPress stuff. Even though I totally trust you guys, I want to get his opinion on it, because that's what he does for a living. He writes WordPress themes for people. Cool. So when you guys had suggested using the Genesis theme for WordPress, I bounced the idea off of him, and he's like, yeah, it's a really good framework, so that's why I bought it.
Yep. Cool. Oh, and I did figure out something. You guys will have to check this out. Let me see if I can. Why? I remember I was talking about that C++ traffic that I was getting.
Yeah.
So it finally occurred to me what to do. Check this out. I'll have to
look for it.
Oh shoot! Oh, I didn't even see Josh's message. We do need to wrap this up.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see the link.
Oh, it's an affiliate link to
oh, nice.
Course. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Might as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
If I can say, and it's 40% commission from you to me, so
very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
So it was like a 5-minute fix. It might not be the best solution, but heck, I'm at least not wasting that traffic now.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you gotten any signups yet?
No, but I've got a lot of clicks. I don't know how long the process takes for the whole, for it to report the earnings.
Yeah, true. Usually you get like a 30-day. There's like a 30 or 60-day window. So.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys next week. Don't forget, next week, May 6th.
All right, you guys.
All right.
See ya.
Yeah.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code. Listen to John, Josh, and Derick as we figure it out. We are the Entreprogrammers, and we'll teach you straight up to be developers.